So we do have a wide selection of tools, and ironically, using the word selection is what these tools are. They are there to create selections for us. And the most common one, of course, is the rectangular marquee tool. That's the second tool down in the toolbar. Now, for some reason, you're not seeing the same set of tools that I am. Remember, there's this button up in the top right-hand corner. It kind of looks like a little TV screen with a little tick arrow or arrow pointing down. These are your workspaces. And so Essentials is usually the default, which should give you access to everything. But I know a couple people were having trouble finding some tools. And usually the reason for that is you probably changed your workspace to one of the defaults that's listed here, because some tools will be hidden because they're just not part of that workspace. Mainly those workspaces are created in the mindset of these are the specific tools that you would use to accomplish whatever it is you're trying to accomplish. So just as a heads up on that one. But the selection tool, specifically the rectangular marquee tool, should be the second tool down in the list. It does have the little triangle on the button, which means there's additional tools hidden behind it. And so in addition to the rectangular, we've got an elliptical, a single row, and then a single column. So I'm going to be experimenting with the rectangular marquee tool first. With this tool, you can simply click, hold, and drag. Now, keep in mind, nothing happens to the image until you tell Photoshop to do something, which means this dashed line, or what's technically called a marquee, which is probably in the quiz at some point, is abstract, which means I can move it around and it's not going to affect the photo. Now I can move it by placing my cursor inside the selected area, and my cursor turns into that white triangle. Now there's a second piece to this that you have to pay attention to in order for you to actually move it. And that is up here in the top left-hand corner, you're going to see these 4 buttons. And these 4 buttons are options for this marquee tool. And the first button, which looks like just a white square, is the new selection. So that means if I was to draw somewhere else on my photo, the previous marquee is always going to disappear because it thinks I'm creating a new selection every single time. The second button, which looks like 2 squares connected together, is my add to selection, which means if I press that and I click and drag somewhere else to create another marquee, now both marquees stay visible. So in essence, I've added to the original. Now, they're actually 2 separate ones, but if I drag another marquee overlapping a marquee, when I release my mouse, it will now join those together. And in that case, I literally am adding to the existing marquee. If I go to the third option, now I'm subtracting. Now, where a lot of people make a mental mistake with this tool is, let's assume I'm trying to get rid of both of these marquees and I'm using this subtract from selection tool. I don't have to make a marquee the exact same shape, okay? All I have to do is make a marquee that's big enough to include the original marquees. And then everything inside of the marquee that I'm drawing will be subtracted, or in this case, deleted and removed. So you can see here, I can make one that's way bigger than that little section that I'm trying to get rid of, and then release my mouse. If you get this little pop-up that has some other details, don't worry about them for right now. Just click OK, and you'll see it'll disappear. Now, the last one is an intersecting. So if I already have a marquee and then I overlap an existing one, the only part that's going to remain is where they overlap. So this small little section right here, when I release my mouse, that's the only portion that remains. So it's important to pay attention to those option buttons, those 4 little options, because that will dictate what the marquee tool is going to do. And the last button that you actually clicked on becomes the default for that tool. So in other words, if I thought I was going to create another selection and make it a new selection, notice I'm going to get this pop-up because the option that I still had was to intersect. So you do have to manually go up here and select the particular option that you're wanting to utilize. And a lot of times people forget about that.